Yeah.
What's the thing? Do you don't have like a theme or like a?
I guess the theme was, I mean, it started off. I told you it started off because I was just lonely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The whole idea was like I just need to get to know people, anybody, and now I guess the theme of the podcast is I want a place where if you want to get to know a Chicago comic on a personal level and know their backstory and their history without them, in performance mode, going to my podcast would be the place to go.
What does your listenership look like?
Terrible.
Never mind. I want to do this.
No, it's whatever. I just do it because I like to do it. It's a good excuse to get to know people,
right.
and I just think people are interesting in general, but I think comedians are especially interesting in how vast and unique their perspectives are.
Right. What's the name of your podcast?
Join the Journey Podcast. I like alliteration.
Join the Journey. Okay.
Yeah, you're on the journey right now, dog.
No, that's rad. I'm always on a journey.
Yeah, and this is a little unorthodox for the podcast because we're in a car coming from a show.
Yeah, this is sick.
Yeah.
You guys want to hear something crazy about the journey? And I assume we're all, spiritual beings in this car. But what's crazy is that I like to film videos and make little videos for my YouTube channel. And twice now I've done a day in my life video where I record a little bit of what I'm doing all day and then I'm putting it together and I'm running through it like this is a day in my life. Because if you can believe it, my days are crazy. And the first time I decided to do it was when you, Aaron, happened to be hosting the Comedy Clubhouse show. And that was the first time we met. And you were also the first good host that I had seen in Chicago. Because I had been here for 3 weeks. You might need to cut this from the pod if other comedians are listening. Actually, no, fuck them. Everyone sucked at hosting. And then you were a good host, and it was great. And so I talk about that when I run through a day of my life, and I have some footage of you introducing me on stage. I'm like, yeah, this is Aaron, blah, blah, blah. I did my set. My set was good. And then I go on with my day. And then the next time, I loved that video. It took a lot of fucking work, and it has 5 views. But I like it, and I like the concept of it, and I think it's great. The next time, I was like, I'm going to commit to filming everything I do today, was when I happened to be on Zacho's show that he was hosting. And I'm almost done editing it, and I was almost done before this trip to post it on YouTube, but then the hard drive I was using fell off the table, and I lost some footage. So we're set back a bit, but hopefully I can publish it by tomorrow. But how crazy is that? And now here we are all in a car together for a show that I hosted for you guys.
It's full circle, man.
Tell me that's not the journey that we're on.
That's the universe, bro. That's the universe bringing us together, man, and creating unity. I have a question about that. I have multiple questions.
You can go take this wherever you want to take it.
Thank you. What makes a good host to you, and what was it about that night where you were like, oh, okay, this was good hosting?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what's not good hosting.
Okay.
Not good hosting is doing 7 minutes between comedians and just talking for the sake of talking. I think a good host is, imagine that you're hosting a party and you have a bunch of your friends in the room and you just want everyone to feel comfortable. You want to make sure everyone's having a good time, and you just kind of a good host will throw their material out the window for the sake of the room. Also being aware of how to bring up comedians, when to bring them up, and when not to do material between comedians. I think there are a lot of people who think hosting is easier than it is, and then they don't realize that they're not doing it very well. Yeah, and I'd been in Chicago for 3 weeks before that show, and I'd been on a handful of shows, but also a lot of mics where people were not hosting the mics efficiently, which is very frustrating.
Are the mics different out in San Fran? Do people a little quicker?
I hadn't been doing mics since before COVID, because what happened is San Francisco does not have a lot of nice indoor venues, because it's not like Chicago where there are a lot of bars with all those rooms attached with a stage and mic setup. So there are very few venues that are good for live comedy, and very few places that were willing to do live comedy, especially open mic nights. And the places that were able to do it were dive bars that were about to go out of business, and hosting open mic night was their last chance at making some money. And those places did not survive through COVID. So after things started to open back up, there were a ton of sidewalk shows, outdoor shows that everyone had started at restaurants and stuff. So you could get a lot more stage time just doing these kind of casual shows with small audiences on the sidewalk. But there was the mic scene was kind of dead. I at least was experienced enough where I wasn't looking for mics.
Gotcha.
So it'd been a while since I'd been at mics and remembered how annoying it is. Also, I was known in San Francisco, so I could do that thing where you walk in a room, nod at the person who has the list, and they'll put you up whenever you want. Here, no one knew me,
Yeah.
/ no one knows me, so...
Well, and I've been saying it all goddamn weekend, but you're the swiftness in which you got to work out here, and I know we got to talk about it a lot without recording devices.
Yes.
But if I were to put it in my own words, it sounds like you were raised to be kind of healthy and hardworking. Like everything was set up well, and you don't want to squander that potential. That's
a good way of putting it. I feel I was engineered for greatness, and if I don't do, I've been so blessed and have so many good things. If I don't do something good, ultimately good with it, it's like what the fuck's the point? Also, as I mentioned, I think that my life has been so good. Like, the shoe is about to drop. Like, I could die tomorrow, so I'm like, what? I need to have something to, like, prove for myself, if that makes sense. Or at the very, like, it's I like to write a lot of letters, so it's like the same reason I write letters, right? So it's like, if I get hit by a bus, at least something is on the way in an envelope to the people, to someone that I love, with, like, some last words.
Yeah.
How's that?
Very sad.
Also, my personal motto is strike while the iron is hot, and it's like I'm the fire in that scenario, and also the iron that's being struck, and also the person striking the iron. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all hot, baby.
It's all very hot. As the kids say. Is that what the kids say?
No, they do not.
Do
Do
they still say fleek?
I don't. Do I look like a kid to you?
No. Well.
There were some kids in the gym last night making noises. When that woman came in during Zacho's set, and Zach was like, "Where the hell were you?" She was like, "Oh, there were some kids at the gym in the gym that I was talking to. They were like, they made some cat sounds, and I was like, oh, fuck you guys."
When you say cat sounds,
I don't the fucking
like, meow,
no, like
meow.
the fucking making a pass at a woman type thing.
But that sounds like they're from 1943.
Well, they were like 12-year-olds that were like whatever. I don't want to talk about them anymore. But
okay.
Fuck them, for the record.
All right. What was I gonna say? When I first saw you and met you, well, I was at the Comedy Clubhouse, and then you did your set, and it was very good, and my ears perked up when I heard California.
Mm-hmm.
As much as happy as I am to be away from California, there is this sense of, like, understanding when you hear someone's from at all the same state.
Yeah.
And then the second time I met you was at the Lincoln Lodge during that little moment at the open mic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which I doubt you want to get into that.
You want to talk about shitty hosts? Yeah, don't get so drunk you can't even put together a coherent sentence, and then try to bring up comedians and ramble and take their time heckling after that comedian's been sitting in a fucking room waiting to get on stage for 4 minutes. Yeah, I'm not going back to Lincoln Lodge.
Chloe's feelings.
I'm gonna call
this.
I'm done. I don't want to talk about comedy anymore.
We can talk about other shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a lot of I'm a multi-dimensional being.
Okay. I know that you...
I don't care what everyone else says. I am a multi-dimensional being, yes.
What do you think is an aspect of you that most people wouldn't expect?
Ooh. I am very, very nurturing. I cannot be in a position... I think I am kind of dead set on being single for a while, and I think I'm dead set on probably not having my own children, at least anytime soon, because I cannot be in a position where I have to, like, take care of someone else, because it will totally absorb me. Yeah, and even if I don't want it to, it becomes a distraction for me and my work.
I don't know, I'm getting a Steve Jobs vibe. Just the nurturing thing.
Yes, he's known for being a very nurturing person, isn't he? Is he?
No, not at all. He was known to being a very mean person.
Oh.
Like
excellent.
No, but I mean, like, driven. You know, when you meet somebody who has their laser...
Listen, I didn't come here to make friends. I came here to be number one, baby.
Is that the goal? Number one? You're hitting the top?
No, not at all, no.
Have you made friends out here?
Yeah, you guys are in the car.
Oh.
No, I mean, I've made a couple friends, but I don't really... They're, like, comedians.
Do you hang out with people outside of comedy?
No. I mean, I've gone on dates with people. I've slept with people.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. No, do I have a friend that I'm like, oh, let's go to the movies?
Yeah, like, just have you made a buddy that's outside of comedy?
I
guess it's hard because
here's the thing is I made a lot of friends that are like they're very friendly, and if I hit them up to hang out, like people invite me to parties and stuff like that, and to the beach hangouts and whatever, and they're non-comedians. Like I made friends with this like funk band that's actually pretty locally like doing well, and they have like a whole groupie that go to their concerts, and I went to one of their birthday parties / jam sessions.
That's pretty
and
sick.
Made friends through them.
Do you play an instrument?
I do not. I am so musically not gifted. It's very
I
frustrating.
feel like you'd play flute.
I grew up I played the violin for 5 years, and I was horrible and I hated it, but I think I played it from the ages of 5 to 10, and I think it was important for like rewiring my brain a little bit, but other than that, it was rough. My impulse purchase during COVID was buying a very expensive violin because I thought I was going to reteach myself how to do it, and I did not.
Violin is one of those instruments where I had a violin as well. I bought one in Ireland. Yeah. When I went to Ireland, I just saw buskers and performers, and there's something dope. What's up?
It's enchanting, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about the violin or fiddle or whatever that's really cool.
Yeah, I like the cello too.
But then when you start learning it, you realize it's not like, when you play piano poorly, it's not fun, but it doesn't hurt. Like, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, the
your
violin
ears.
like screeches. I took it out of the case once. I used it as a prop for a music video that I was filming to the song Grace Kelly, and then I put it back in the case, and I did not touch it for a year and a half, and then I donated it to a charity in San Francisco that helps teach musical instruments to kids or whatever.
That's very healthy. You see, do you have this same? I think you have like a same. I don't know if obsession is the right word, but I'm gonna use the word obsession with documentation and recording things.
Yes.
You were saying you're always the person who is not being taken. By the way, I think I got a lot of candid, creepy pictures.
Yeah. Those are.
I'm very proud of.
Sure. Yeah, it kind of goes back to the I could die at any second type thing. That's also like I like to journal, and I think okay, if I disappear all of a sudden, I give everyone free range to go through all my journals.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I that's on wax now. So if something happens,
no, it's on the record. Yeah, don't like burn them.
Okay. No, I have the same like kind of it. I think it has to do with my memory issue.
Yeah, a little memento.
Yeah. I had one. It sucks because my one of my bigger fears is memory loss to a point of extremes. Like my grandpa had Alzheimer's before he died.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, and like when you watch somebody who should, for all purposes, know who the fuck you are, and they look at you and you can just feel like you're not there to them anymore. It's a really dark, surreal place. And so there's this weird thing I think clicked to me as a kid that was like, if you document everything, you won't forget.
Yeah.
Which is very dark and sad.
Yeah, I don't know why. I like taking videos. My favorite creative projects are the ones where I am behind the camera and not on the stage. Like I feel like that gives me I feel so much more liberated to be weird and play around with comedic timing and unexpected kind of punchlines.
You make short films, yeah?
Yeah, short films, animations, just anything where I'm behind the camera.
Do you have a director, like your top 5 directors?
Not really, honestly. Me, I guess, number 1. No, I'm not the kind of person that's like, oh, here are my top 5 stand-up comedians and their styles that I like. Here are my top 5 directors and all the movies that I watch. I don't consume a lot of content that isn't educational. So I watch a lot of Masterclass. I listen to a lot of podcasts that are like, I love Oprah, so like Oprah interviewing like famous people is what I'm all about. I read a lot and I listen to audiobooks. I don't have a TV.
What are your indulgences? What do you
weed? I masturbate a lot and I smoke a lot of weed. And I like to exercise, and I honestly just like sit around. I like silence, so I'll just like kind of bop around my apartment, smoking weed, stretching.
Yeah, okay.
Thinking. I think a lot.
Do you and I know you like the catch and release style of dating. Do you feel like do men feel objectified by you?
They've made a few comments on it, but they do, and they like it.
They like it?
Yeah. I respect people as people and whatever, and men aren't objects, but it's fun to play around with. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I like to pretend I'm like a female Johnny Bravo.
Did Johnny Bravo ever get pussy? Didn't he always ended up getting slapped?
I don't know. He's hot. He's a cartoon. It's great.
He's hot. It's a cartoon. It's great.
Yeah.
You've been in like a serious relationship?
Oh yeah. And all this whole new attitude that I have is I'm a hopeful romantic. I've had a lot of relationships. I fall in love. I'm gonna say have because I feel like something shifted in May. And what shifted was that I flew to Germany to spend 10 days with a man I met on Tinder, and it was like a train wreck from day one that just kept crashing through the 10 days. And there was a point where I was crying in Germany over this fucking flat-footed Aryan fuckhead, and I was like, no, this is it, no more. And now men are objects to me.
Okay, I'm gonna start from the beginning.
But no, I've had a lot of serious. I've fall into relationships somewhat easily. I fall in love very easily. I think I'm generally a lovable person, and I have a very healthy sense of what a healthy and nice relationship should look like. Largely because of my parents and their relationship with each other, and then also their relationship with me and my siblings. My most recent / most serious relationship was for 2 years with another comedian. I met in San Francisco at open mics in 2019, and we broke up in March of 2021. And then we continued. We were producing shows together, so he was also like my business partner. Yeah, and we continued producing shows together for 10 months until I moved out of San Francisco.
I want to know the German story.
The German story, he's not even really this is going to sound so ridiculous, but so I went to Rome over Christmas with my family on a family vacation to Rome, and that's not something that sounds really bougie, and it's not something we'd ever done before, but we did it because my dad almost died the same week that my ex and I broke up in March of 2021. So this was my dad's.
Speed through crazy sounding shit? Wait, okay, so your dad, why did your dad almost die?
His heart just kind of exploded. His aortic artery split open suddenly when he was at work, and he, like, everyone I've told what happened to him, who's like a nurse or a firefighter or whatever, is like, I've never heard of someone surviving that. So he survived it and he's doing great now. But it was like the first Christmas since his heart explosion. So we went to Rome. Oh yeah, also my mom has just wanted to go to Italy for a while. So we went to Rome, and I was on Tinder on Christmas looking for some D. And I came across this German guy who was also in Rome on vacation, and we went on like a couple dates. So we met in person in Rome, and we went on 2 dates, and they were great, but it's also Christmas during Rome, and this guy's also definitely a narcissist, so he was very charming, and I was like, this is great. I had a huge crush on him. I was planning on going back. He was like, come to Germany, visit me, blah 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 blah. And then I went there in May to visit him. So it wasn't like I met him on Tinder and had never met him before. Okay. I had met him on Tinder, met him twice in December, and then went to go see him at the end of April / early May, and then was coming back from Germany, had 1 day to pack all my shit, and then was moving to Chicago.
What?
And it was just, he's not even worth my time. I just hope he gets hit by a bus, is the conclude. Let me re-say that. He's not worth my time to talk about on the podcast, and I hope he gets hit by a bus.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Do you find yourself attracting narcissists around you often?
I have, yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I'm attracted to narcissists, I think. Well, because everyone is. That's their power, right? They lure you in. But I think I'm over that at this point.
You seem, it seems like...
Also, timid people are like, someone has to be kind of... I'm a lot, and I don't really give people a lot of time to, like, pussy around stuff. You know what I mean? So if someone's not full of themselves a little bit, at least, they're not gonna get my attention.
You seem like so when you're going out to hunt for the D,
right? When
you got your spear and your shield and you go out into the wild for that D,
right?
You're going after like the alpha male, essentially.
No, this is. I think you're focusing. There's too much emphasis on me going out hunting for D. I'm not this is like kind of a new thing, me playing around with like picking up guys and having fun with it and kind of leaning into it almost as like a character. And it's because it tickles me. I find it funny and entertaining to kind of flip it on its head. When I was seriously dating and looking for connections and all that, I don't know. No, I got heartbroken again and again because I would be like, oh my God, this person. My mom could not tell me how many people I've told her I think I'm going to marry. I will call her and be like, Mom, I think I found the one. And then she'll be like 2 weeks later, she'll be like, how'd it go? I'm like, nope, they didn't wanted something else, and it wasn't me.
So okay, so
So this is Chloe 2.0. No, probably honestly like 5.0 at this point.
This is like a new recent phase.
Yeah, and now I'm so comfortable being by myself, and I'm so focused on my comedy and my career that this is just for entertainment.
Right.
And also it's entertaining to other people.
Yeah, you're actually making a show about it.
Yeah, I am making a show about it.
You're welcome.
Produced by the Laugh Factory. We're going to start filming either August 19th, 20th, or 21st. And it's still going to be called Chloe Picks Up Chicago. And I'm going to go out into the wild and be fed lines from a comedian to pick up dudes. So I'll have an earpiece in me and be getting fed lines.
Do you feel like you would get uncomfortable or it'd be weird for you, or is it just like all pure fun?
No, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I better not. I mean, if I am uncomfortable, I have to get over it because we're producing this and it's got to be a good series. You know what I mean?
Scale of 1 to 10 chances of a guy actually piquing your interest and he being the one you fall in love with, and it was all recorded.
Wow. Well, even if that happens, I would tell him, hey, buddy, give me 5 years. No. 3 to 5 years, and then I could consider loving him back.
Okay.
But I am on a mission, and that mission is to go to Taiwan.
Yes. You talked about the Mandarin and
I didn't talk about it on the pod, though. These people don't know anything.
Oh, these people, there's 20 of these people.
Okay.
And they,
Ni howdy.
What? Wait, what was that?
It was ni howdy. It's a Mandarin English combo. Chinglish, as we call it.
Okay. Please continue.
No, that's it. Ni howdy.
Ni howdy.
I studied Mandarin for 7 years. Since I was like 13 or 14, have been kind of obsessed with Chinese literature and history. I think China in the 20th century is by far my most it's by far my favorite topic to study, to read about.
What sparked that?
I don't know. It's just in my heart. It's since I was like little.
Maybe you were Chinese in a past life.
No, yeah, I don't know. It's something. But the characters, I really like I really like languages and like learning new languages. So I also studied Spanish and Italian and a little bit of Russian when I was younger, because I like how when you study a language, it allows you to communicate with people in a more empathetic way, right? Because you connect with people when you're talking to them in their own language, and every language has its own culture and things tied into it that you otherwise wouldn't have picked up on if you didn't speak it.
Yeah,
I was very intrigued by Chinese because I didn't know anything about it, whereas like Spanish, you can like pick out certain words and whatever. I thought the characters were really interesting because you look at them and you're like, what the fuck is this?
It does, to the untrained eye, it just looks like scribble.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, as it should. So I was like, I want to learn more about this, and the characters are all come from like the very basic characters can be taken apart and look like pictographs. Like you can trace back to like, oh, the word for tree originally looked like a tree and now it's a very simplified little stick tree, but it's still a tree. Or like the word for good is the like drawing for like a woman and then also a baby. So good is like a mom and a baby together. And like the word for house is a pig under, like the drawing for a pig under a roof. Because it's like if you had a pig under your roof, that was a prosperous household because you always had something to kill and eat if you needed to.
What was the time period of China that you said you got interested in?
The 20th century. So like China in the 1900s, starting with like the Opium Wars to I guess 2000. But now, honestly.
So modern Chinese history.
Yeah, so much. China went through insane transformation in the 20th century. They had their dynasty fell apart. The last dynasty fell apart in the 1920s, and then there was this like period where China was just absolute chaos in the 1930s. It was the Warring States period, and every territory like had their own king and their own ruler, and literally they were all fighting with each other, and it was like barbaric. Like people were torturing each other. It was fucked up. The feet binding was just made illegal, so finally women were able to fucking walk around.
What's feet binding?
Feet binding is in the Qing dynasty, it became very common for young women. It was like a beauty standard for women to have these things called lotus feet, where their feet had to be 4 inches or less. So starting at the age of 7, a girl would be start having her feet bound in like a wrap to help to squish her toes, to break her toes and break her feet bones. And then they would do that until it was just like her feet were like a little ball, and they had to wear these special shoes
To be able to walk?
It wasn't even to walk. It was just it was like it showed that it was a status thing, right? Because if you could go through this excruciatingly painful thing to have your feet reshapen, and that means that you were wealthy enough where you could have enough like servants to like to do everything you needed them to do, like take care of the house and like feed you and like carry you around and shit. And so like high status men wanted women with bound feet. Like if you had feet like I have right now, you were like a farmer. And honestly, I would rather be a farmer.
I mean, okay.
Okay, so then that was in the 1930s, and also Japan was trying to take over China too. So there's a lot of war, there's a lot of violence. Also, the Mandarin is the main dialect of Chinese now, but there are over 100 different dialects, and they're all wildly different. So they don't necessarily, just because you speak one doesn't mean necessarily can speak with the other. So China was very fragmented. And was being attacked by China. There was wars going on.
China was being attacked by Japan?
By Japan, excuse me. And there was a lot of internal violence. People were illiterate. There was like a lot of poverty. There were a lot of their women's rights issues, obviously.
I have a lot of questions. I have one right now real quick.
What is it?
You remember when I told you about the whole sign language thing and that it wasn't universal?
Right.
And the answer to the immediate thought is like, well, wouldn't it be more efficient if everyone just spoke or signed one universal sign language?
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking that same potentially ignorant question about China. Why so many dialects?
I don't know, same thing. People get accustomed to their little local community. You know, before the internet, everyone was, you know, geographically separated, especially by like mountains and shit. But what's interesting is that it's all the same written language. Even so, Cantonese and Mandarin are the two main dialects now that people speak. I can't understand someone who speaks Cantonese, and someone who speaks Cantonese can't understand Mandarin, largely because, you know, I'm not going to go into it. However, they both use the same written language, which is pretty cool. Now, so then Chairman Mao came in and became like the grassroots leader of this like internal
This is the 40s?
army. Yeah, in the 40s. And he was just like a peasant that was, you know, very charismatic and kind of like rallied the troops.
That's how it goes.
And had peer numbers behind him.
I think we have an incredibly ethnocentric education system out here.
Yes.
So when I think of the 30s and 40s, I think of it of the American perspective. If I remember correctly, that was the Great Depression. Did they have a Great Depression?
That was the Great Depression was the 20s.
Was it the 20s?
And then
I thought the flappers were the 20s.
Well, there's multiple. I mean, if you can believe it, multiple things happen in different decades.
The world is binary.
It's not just 20s are flappers, 30s is depression,
My
50s
bad.
is war. They had a worse than a Great Depression. They were, you know, fucking fighting with each other. People were dying of famine. It was bad. It was.
So Mao, this guy, he's a peasant and he's charismatic though.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what his early like roots were. Maybe he was like became a teacher or something. I don't know a lot, but he built up the Chinese army, like the People's Army, and they marched from southern China to Beijing to reclaim the capital, and then they started fighting the nationalists, who are the people that wanted to keep China under I forget his name, Chiang Kai-shek. So Chiang Kai-shek was the leader of the nationalists, and they wanted to keep him in charge. But then there's a civil war, really, after years of also just like what they call the Warring States period. And the nationalists all fled to Taiwan when it was clear that the communists were taking over. And so Chiang Kai-shek and a few boatfuls of his people and their families went to Taiwan and like kind of took over Taiwan.
So they fucked up the people that were already in Taiwan.
Yeah, I don't know who the fuck was already in Taiwan, but It was, you know.
And
then Mao started communism, which is in the People's Republic of China. Sorry, excuse me. He didn't start communism. But yeah, he started the People's Republic of China in 1949, and that shit was crazy. Like, that's just a whole social experiment. Can you imagine taking millions of people and just transforming all of society?
what was their, before the communism took over, what was their political situation?
Well, they didn't really have, nothing was like sticking. The dynasty fell apart in the 1920s, and then before it was multiple decades of who's in charge? Oh, this guy's in charge for a year. Oh, now he got murdered. Oh, now this new guy. Oh, but he's just a puppet for the Japanese government. oh, okay, now let's get this new guy, and it was all very localized too. And also people weren't educated and communicating with each other.
So they just didn't have any foundation.
No, it was fragmented. And so Mao came in, and Mao did a lot of shitty stuff, and millions of people died under him. But what he did do was he unified the Chinese people through making Mandarin the one universal language. He also did, in some twisted way, help women's rights in making women and men seen as equal, right?
How so?
Because everyone was workers. It wasn't men and women in class and status and religion anymore. He did away with all religion. He did away with like, the elites and all that. He kind of leveled the playing field violently and through, torture and murder and all that. But now all of a sudden everyone was like the working class. People weren't of different status.
What is the difference?
And honestly, I'm such a slut for 1950s Chinese propaganda. Visually, I think it's so cool. I love how it looks.
I gotta look this up. What is the difference between communism and socialism?
I don't know. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
All right. My bad. Okay.
It's okay. I don't want to say something. I don't want to sound stupid.
Why would you sound stupid?
I don't know. Because I don't know.
I think this is. I don't know. I think you said it sounds like you know way more about another culture and time period.
Okay. Here's something interesting. So Mao in like the early 50s / mid 50s did this campaign called the 100 Flowers campaign. That's the translation for it. And his idea was that basically the motto is something along the lines of 100 flowers will bloom and 100 schools of thought will come from it. And this was like probably 8 to 10 years into his rulership. And it was after strict censorship. And he said, hey, all artists and intellects, anyone who creates things, you now are free. You're out of jail and you're out of living in fear. You're allowed to criticize the government through your art. And through that criticism, we will improve our government and make our society better. So go ahead, 100 Flowers campaign. So it was a couple years of like people like us who were artists coming back out and finally saying, oh, we can criticize the government and make things again. And they did that. And there are like some films from that time that are very like subtly criticizing Mao and all that. There are cartoonists and writers. People started criticizing the government again. And there's this short period where we can, if there's anything remaining, because the government ended up destroying a lot of it, you can see that. So he did that, and then instead of taking all the criticism and improving the government like he said he was going to, he murdered all the people he executed all the people who actually followed through with that.
He was just like, just kidding. I'm actually really
he was like, it was a trap. It was a trap to get anyone who was an artist or an intellectual who would speak against him and put them in prison or execute them.
Okay, so that's I was when you said that the idea of that is so strange because the China I know now does not fuck with that. Like, what's his name? Xi Jinping?
Jin Jinping.
Jin Jinping. I know he has a thing with Winnie the Pooh. Mm-hmm. Right? Like he doesn't like,
because Winnie the Pooh is based in Taoism, and when communism took over, they got rid of the four olds. So like one of the four olds is old religion and old literature, and so Taoist texts were banned because Mao was supposed to be your god. You weren't supposed to have any other god or any type of religion other than Mao.
When you say god, do you mean like ruler or literal deity?
Literal god. Mao was everything. Children were brainwashed to turn in their own parents.
Jesus Christ.
Things like that. But I feel like this has been a lot of Chinese history, and it's been fantastic, but we could also talk about something else.
We can, and I actually Taoism is a form of religion. You're not really, you're atheist?
I was raised in a very strictly atheist. I was raised in a very vocally atheist household. My parents sat us down and were like, listen kids, there is no God, which is a very interesting
Did they do it on Christmas? Were they like, by the way?
I don't know. It's so clear to me. That was such the clear narrative. My dad was raised Catholic and my mom was like loosely Christian growing up or whatever. But when they came together, they're like, our kids are not gonna have a religion.
Okay.
Which was interesting. I think in my heart I knew I was like spiritual and I wanted to connect with spirituality. So at the age of 8, I asked my parents to send me to a sleepaway Christian camp in New Hampshire, and they did. And from the ages of 8 to 13, I went to the sleepaway Christian camp and was around like very, very Christian people. We read the Bible every morning. We prayed in the woods. It was like a whole thing. But also it was like summer camp. And to me, that was just like what camp. I was like, oh yeah, summer camp. Every summer camp is like this. I think looking back, if I could have gone to summer camp without the religious aspect of it, that's ultimately what I wanted, was just like a sense of community and being outside. But yeah, I kind of converted myself to Christianity for a few years, and then I adamantly rejected it after reading some article about some extremists murdering some people.
Yeah, they do that sometimes.
Yeah, and then I was really, really anti-religion and rejected it. And then now, in the past 3 years, I've opened myself back up and have kind of explored my spirituality not through organized religion.
Yeah,
and that has been cool.
I really want to. Do they listen to the shit that you make, your parents?
Yeah, but they don't have to listen to this.
Oh, okay. I was gonna give them a big compliment if they listen.
Oh yeah, no.
Chloe's parents, you're very good parents. That is.
And they're hot.
And they're super, super hot.
Okay. Okay, wait. No.
Her dad has abs for miles, and did your dad have abs?
Both my parents do. Both my parents they work out so consistently, but that's not their most redeeming quality. I just wanted to add it in there. I didn't mean to.
No, talk about how sexy your father is.
No, that's not.
Okay.
That's not bad.
No, but I guess to have the maturity and the lack of ego to encourage your kids to do things. Obviously, like you had structure and things to you did sports and you did the arts and you did education and all that, but also your parents being willing, like sounds like staunch atheists.
Yeah.
And their kid being like, I want to go to Christian camp, and then be like, okay.
And them driving me. It was a 13-hour drive. And it was a 13 hours. It was a long fucking drive.
Were they at any point were they like, are you sure you want to?
Yeah, they'd be like, are you sure you want to go back? And I'm like, yeah. And then the thing is, like, the first thing on the packing list, a camp will send you like a packing list of like things to bring. The number one thing was a Bible.
Nice.
But they never bought me a Bible. I always showed up without a Bible, and they'd be like, ugh, okay, here we go. And they'd take me to this closet, and they had stacks of Bibles, and they'd be like, here you go, here's your copy.
What?
Honestly, what I want to give my parents the biggest shout out for is, well, my dad, I'll give him a shout out like on his own as how he is as a person, and my mom is the most intellectually curious person I've ever met. She, growing up and still does, like, devours books. She read constantly, and she really instilled in us that we should always have a book that we're working on reading. So we would carry it around. If we were going to the grocery store, bring your fucking books. And if you're waiting for me in the car, you read your book. And it's easier to do that before smartphones, because that was like entertainment. But yeah, she still reads a ton today. And leading by example is really important when you're a parent.
Yeah. I had a lot of do as I say, not as I do bullshit.
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Kids are smarter than that.
Did your parents have healthy childhoods? Is this a generation?
No. They both. So my dad's dad, who died 2 months before I was born, and my dad is convinced that I am his father's spirit reincarnated. And that's the most, like, spiritual thing that I've ever heard my dad say, and the only thing, really. But he was generally absent from my dad's life. He went to prison for, like, some tax evasion shit. He was definitely a drug addict. He was very smart. He was a lawyer, but he was also very unreliable. And so, like, one of my dad's probably the core memory for my dad was when he was 13 or 14. His father went to prison, and he missed the first basketball game that he was on for his freshman year. He missed that basketball game to have family dinner with his family, because it was last night before his dad went to prison. And because he missed that game, his coach was like, he grew up, like, really Catholic, and his mom was so ashamed of this. She was like, you don't talk to anyone about this. We keep this secret to ourselves. Don't let anyone know where your dad is and what's going on. So his coach was like, why'd you miss the first game once I pulled you on for, like, the JV team? And my dad didn't share it. He was like, I don't know, I just couldn't come. And he got benched for the next 4 years through high school, even though, despite being very athletic and all that, he got benched because he missed that first game. And then my dad's dad came out of prison when my dad was 18, and my dad was taking out the trash, and his dad pulled up in a car, and he thought he was my dad's sister, so my aunt's. He thought he was a boyfriend that was visiting the house. So he said, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm John Matonis." And my dad was like, "Dad, I'm your son. You just don't recognize me because you missed my growth spurt, and I'm 18 now," and all that. So that's the kind of father that my dad had growing up. He remembers they had a 6-foot bong in their rec room, and he did a lot of cocaine. That's how he died, from a cocaine-induced stroke, most likely. And he used to pick up women by walking around and telling them that he was a pilot. He'd say, "Hey, baby, I'm a pilot, but I'm on the ground."
So some catch me if you can shit.
Yeah, he picked up a lot of women, and he had an article written about him for being the only lawyer in the United States who defended doctors' rights to use Ouija boards to diagnose their patients. So he was an interesting dude, and that's my dad, where my dad came from. And then my mom had a clinically depressed refrigerator mother.
Clinically
Depressed refrigerator mom. So just like that means just like cold, like wasn't there. She.
I thought that meant she just ate a lot.
No, she suffered from chronic migraines. So she was very. We can pause as well.
Yeah,
Zacho.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Zacho.
Thanks.
We just went through a toll booth for the fans of the pod. So her mom, she grew up in Minnesota, and her mom tried to kill herself multiple times, and that obviously affected my mom's brain and her relationship with her. So both my parents then met in you know what happened with my dad? My dad, their family didn't have much money. His mom was a door-to-door encyclopedia saleswoman. That's where I get the razzle-dazzle from.
Okay.
He grew up in not a good area in D.C., but he was able to go to Georgetown Prep, which is the same school that Brett Kavanaugh went to, and is a very well-renowned Jesuit prep school. He got a scholarship to go there because he did so well on his tests. And
Wait, you're talking about your dad right now?
Yeah, my dad. Okay. And because he did that, then he started playing football and proving himself through sports because he didn't have a father figure, so he wanted to prove himself to all of his coaches. And then he was able to go to Dartmouth, so an Ivy League school, on scholarship, and he studied computer science engineering and played football and graduated and got a job in finance and started making good money. So my dad is a very smart man and hardworking, and also has given a lot of chances that really helped him establish a good life for himself. And then when he met my mom, they were both like, hey, let's have kids and do everything that our parents didn't do where they fucked up. And honestly, they did a great job.
I completely agree.
Thanks.
Don't worry, we're not going to go down the comedy rabbit hole again.
Okay.
But in doing this podcast and getting to know all these comics, there seems to be the stereotype is that comics have to come from Zacho backgrounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've noticed that there's almost this dichotomy. There's this you're either the comics I've spoken to, they've either had really fucked up childhoods or surprisingly well adjusted. I don't think I've talked to many of the comics where I would be like, oh yeah, you're somewhere in the middle. Like most of them have had this. I don't know what that is.
I think it's that we're all people with a lot of different backgrounds. Should we end this when we pause, or should we pause it?
We could pause or end. It's up to. Okay.
My siblings are also very impressive, so I want to give them a shout out.
I'll pause it and then we'll.
Also, I want to pee.
Yeah, same.
It's classic. Was that the one condition? If I got a raspberry one, you would have eaten it?
It wouldn't have made it back to the hotel. Smashed it in the car.
You just need flavors. You just constantly need stimulation.
Yeah, it can't just be.
I think that stems from the orphan boat.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But Aaron, you also said, I said, will you eat this cheesecake? You said, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, cheesecake eating contest in my room, and where were you guys?
I think I was
It's like if someone's like, you want a burger? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I want a fucking burger. And then here's this meat patty in between the bread.
Okay.
Damn, I can't even get a pickle.
Noted.
I've learned through this trip, I've learned so many weird idiosyncrasies of Zacho.
Yeah.
He's a very, very specific man.
We're all complex, multi-dimensional spiritual beings in our flesh vessels.
Speaking, okay, so.
I don't know about all that, but I like strawberry.
And in your water all the time. Okay. But
we're back on the pod.
We're back. We're back from our commercial break.
We're back, baby. Did you miss me? I know you did.
So when we talked a little bit about how, being around a narcissist made it so that weren't didn't really necessarily feel comfortable expressing yourself. You were kind of taking in other people's.
Well, I mean, that's always, I think that's who I am. I don't know if it might be partially society, like how society, wires women to always be accommodating to other people's needs, / who I am as a person, which is, a very compassionate middle child that wants everyone else to be happy and comfortable. Plus, dating someone who would not shut the fuck up and he took up so much space that I became like a shell of myself for 2 years. I think I'm recovered from that, but I'm always cognizant of I never want to be annoying and I never want to inconvenience someone else.
I get that. I think I'm technically a middle child. I have 2 younger half brothers that are 10 years younger than me. They're twins. 2 older half sisters that are obviously older, but they're on different families. So I feel like a middle child and an oldest child and an only child. I feel like all of them in some way.
You feel like a child.
Yeah, there you go. I'm a child. I'm a man baby. And I get from the female perspective thing of I can only do it from my own lens. Like as a black man, you're taught like if you want to survive, you need to make white people comfortable.
Right.
I remember I was dating this girl. She was white. Her dad is white, and I remember I was getting fucked with by old white ladies like Karens before we had names for them.
Right.
And I was complaining, and this is why I needed an older black male figure. I really needed that, and I did not get it.
Right.
But I was complaining to him about it, and he was like, "Well, Aaron, it's your responsibility to make sure they're comfortable."
Whoa.
And yeah, that's just so. With the whole talking about yourself thing, I get it. So I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna work on myself in this podcast.
Yeah.
And we're gonna find balance.
It's not it's nice to treat people nicely and all that, but it's not your job to make other people happy or make them comfortable.
Yeah.
For me, I'm an empath, and no, I'm an HSP. It's a highly sensitive person. I think my brain is wired a little differently to process, like it's like a sensory thing. So like I can walk in a room, and if the lighting is bad or the chairs are uncomfortable or people are like in pain for some reason or like uncomfortable for some reason, I literally like feel it. Like I pick up on it.
You're, from what I gather, very in tune with your body.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you said, like, mentally speaking, you feel pretty solid. It's just the physical that needs constant tweaking.
Yeah, mentally speaking, I feel great. It's like people will be like, wow, quitting your job and moving to a new city where you don't know anyone and pursuing stand-up comedy, that sounds really stressful. People say brave a lot. I think brave is thrown around. I'm like, what the I'm not going to fucking war. Don't call me brave. But yeah, sure, I guess. I don't feel that in my head. I'm just doing what feels right and what I want to do and how I want to challenge myself. However, my body absorbs whatever stress I am supposed to be feeling and expresses it through incredibly tight back muscles and headaches.
I'm going to give pushback on the brave comment. When you said that you're just doing what you want or what your heart or your intuition essentially,
right?
I actually would say that's within our society. I think that's incredibly brave.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because.
But the thing is, I'm also coming from this point of like I've been so nurtured and so loved, and my parents have built up my confidence so much, and I have such a safety net. It's like, why would I not be doing this? You know what I mean?
Well, yes, I do know what you mean, but the fact that you're doing it is crazy. Like, when I'm realizing after this move that most people don't try to do the thing they really want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes comics comics and artists in general so special is that they're really rolling the dice. Like you could have the confidence of Kanye West.
Right.
But at the end of the day, pursuing an art as a career is not inherently stable.
It's not for the faint-hearted, and what I think makes it so difficult is when you have a normal job and a normal kind of career path, there are clear milestones of success, and you have a boss that's telling you what to do and what needs to happen by like the end of the quarter or whatever for you to be successful, and then you do that, you can get a promotion, you follow that along, and there's clear markers. When you are an artist, in any sense. There is no clear path, and you just have to believe fully in what you're making and what you're doing, and that's a very vulnerable position to be in, because it is your baby, it's your idea, it only lives up in your head until you actually create it and execute it, and then you put it out into the world and say, what do you think? And I think a lot of artists get in their own way because that's such a fucking mental minefield to be in. And also, and I fall under this a lot, is I will get something 80 to 90% of the way done, and then I'll lose momentum and I'll just stop and I won't put it out there. And doing something good and finishing it is better than doing something perfectly and never putting it out there.
I agree. And
you gotta be a diligent half-ass. You can't be a lazy perfectionist. And that's what I am.
Oh, where'd you get that quote? Did you make that up?
No, I did not. I got it from a book that I am listening to, because again, I am an intellectual.
There you go. I think that's another reason I like to talk to artists, is because they give a shit about something. Like, I used to be a bouncer at a strip club.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's a whole other very long and weird story.
Right.
But I remember I was talking to one of the dancers. I had this type of conversation with a lot of people, but for whatever reason, hers stuck out to me. Where we were just talking because we didn't have shit to do all day. It's when it's light out, it's not exactly the spot to be at a strip club. And so we had a lot of downtime.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her, like, so what do you do?
Right.
When we're not here, what do you do? She's like, I watch Netflix. I'm like, okay, cool. But, like, what are you passionate about? What do you like? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like, I don't know. And that baffles me. I don't know how you can live in this world with all of these things to do, and you don't do anything. You just exist. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a nice, blissfully ignorant life, but also, wake up, man. There's a whole world out there. Yeah, I don't know. I can't relate to those people. I call them boring. Alright, so we should probably, I feel like we've been talking for a while at this point, so what's interesting is that I brought up Taiwan, and then I gave you a whole rundown on 20th century Chinese history, but I did not get to the reason about why I would like to go to Taiwan.
I would like to hear it.
Yeah, so for the pod, I am working on a web series that I want to produce, direct, write, star in, etc., and put it on YouTube. It'll be called Chloe Abroad. I already have the domain names locked in. And basically the idea is that I will play a young woman. I filmed the pilot episode before I moved out of San Francisco. So I play a young woman in San Francisco who is a complete doormat, very boring. She only does she just relies on other people to tell her what to do. She lacks a sense of direction. She lacks a sense of individuality. She definitely doesn't have a backbone. She's a weak character, and she gets dumped in the first scene by her shitty boyfriend in an ice cream shop. And then she has a chat with her good friend, and she realizes she needs to make a change, and she needs to take control of her life, and she decides to spontaneously move to Taiwan and reinvent herself. So I filmed the entire pilot episode, but the last scene of the pilot episode, it's me walking into the airport, the SFO airport, and then I pan up at the sky, and then the next shot is going to be panning back down at the Taipei International Airport, and me walking out. And my character in the first episode, she has straight hair, she's wearing like a gray sweatshirt, she has her glasses on, she's going to pop out of the Taipei airport, and her hair is going to be fucking curly as hell, and she's going to be wearing orange, and she's going to throw her gray sweatshirt in the trash, and then that's her reinventing herself. And from there on, the series is going to be Chloe as a character reinventing herself, kind of a chaotic good but flawed protagonist who's horny as hell, trying to figure things out, facing this language and cultural barrier. She's not going to speak Chinese, even though I speak Mandarin and can kind of navigate through, a Chinese city, Taiwanese city. But for the sake of the comedy, she won't. And then it's going to be from there moving on, the relationships she makes with Taiwanese people. Maybe she has an expat friend. She has different boyfriends that guest star in each episode or whatever, guys that she's dating. I think is going to be an easy way to rotate around characters. And that's going to be the web series. But I intentionally kept the title as Chloe Abroad, and I'm keeping it in general in my head as Chloe Abroad because I want it also to be able to move around to different places. So ideally, the first season will be filmed in Taiwan, and then maybe I'll fucking go to Norway or somewhere else.
I think that I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, and that's it. And I don't want to say it's not inspired by, because I thought of this on my own, but a good template I think to look at for what I want to do is like what Issa Rae did with Awkward Black Girl, which then turned into Insecure, or what the two women who made Broad City did, which started as a web series on YouTube in 2011 and then turned into Broad City, the TV show that we now all know. I don't care if this turns into a TV show. I just want to live the life where I am making this web series, and I've had this idea for it for easily 2 years now, but I also feel like everything in my life has been kind of like leading me to this. The thing is that Taiwan is in a very complicated geopolitical position right now. The borders have been hella closed because of COVID, so I couldn't have gotten in if I wanted to. And then also people are anticipating that China is going to invade it and take it over at some point. So as soon as you give up on your dream, you give up on it. So I'm just kind of saying, I'm still affirming that I'm going to go to Taiwan and make this web series, but I am not stupid, and I'm aware of what's going on, and also I need to physically get to the country first. So I don't want to sound ridiculous, but also that's the situation.
It's not ridiculous. Yeah, I think based off of what I've learned about you, I mean, in your upbringing, what I've learned and what I've seen, at least on this trip alone, in this conversation, I really have no doubt that you'll make whatever it is, you'll make whatever this is work. So if for whatever reason you can't go to Taiwan because China really goes hard, I'm sure you're gonna pivot.
Yeah, I could go to South Korea. That could be cool.
Yeah.
I want visually, I think the more of a stranger in a strange land is such a good formula for a TV show or any really story that you're gonna tell. I could go somewhere safer, but I want to, like, and when I say safer, I don't mean like, necessarily like crime or danger or whatever. Safer and like, oh, I know it's gonna be comfortable for me. Like, oh, an English speaking country or somewhere in Western Europe or whatever. I really want I want to fucking like stand out. And also, again, like I mentioned, I love Chinese characters and Chinese art in general, but also that can bleed over to, let's say, Japan and South Korea as well, like just generally Asian aesthetic, I guess, characters in general. I want that as like the scenery, the backdrop type situation.
Yeah, brave is a good way to describe you. So,
also there's a lot of what's the word for people being scared and / racist, xenophobic. There's a lot of xenophobia going on right now. So I would love to create a piece of content where I can work with Asian artists and writers and directors and tell more nuanced cultural storylines along with my own and expose American audiences to that, to something that they otherwise wouldn't see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to be like Emily in Paris or whatever and be totally tone deaf to whatever. Like that's people have said, oh, it's gonna be like Emily in Paris. I'm like, it's gonna be Emily in Paris in the sense that I'm a woman going to a place, but that's it.
What is Emily? I've never heard of that.
Oh, it's a stupid it's the worst. It's like a Netflix show. It's bad. It has Lily Collins. She goes to Paris. It's like really racist against French people. It's like basically just like one big like Instagram post of a TV show.
That sounds obnoxious.
And the writing's so bad and the acting's bad too.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited
Thanks.
to just watch your whatever journey. Hey, join the Journey podcast.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch whatever journey.
Thank you.
Your journey, because I think is going to be fascinating.
Thank you. I'm excited for it too.
Yeah.
Can I give are you curious about my siblings, or do you not care about that?
I am very curious.
My siblings are more, I want to say equally, if not more impressive. What I like about us is that we're all impressive in completely our own ways. Mm-hmm. So like my older sister, she's 3 years older than me. Her name's Camille, and she looks like a Swedish Olympian. She's like a semi-professional marathon runner. She's one of the top fastest 200 women in the country. She competed at the Olympic trials for the marathon. She's in incredible shape. She loves to like work out and go camp and whatever. She does all these like outdoor activities. But she's a really sweet person. She likes cats and the outdoors and all that. She's definitely lives in kind of la la land a little bit, but she's very, very book smart. She's cool. She lives in San Francisco. She's a graphic designer as well. So she helps me a lot with I make a lot of posters for different comedy shows, and has been a great resource for me in terms of like making those look nice and helping guide me as a visual artist, because she has a lot of technical understanding of that, and then I have kind of the spirit and I'm just going for it. And then my brother is a year younger than me. His name's Spencer. He is going to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. and he's getting his PhD in material science engineering and starting his own company that has something to do with some type of nano bio, something or other. I can't even explain the overall concept of what he's doing because it's so beyond my understanding. But he is so incredibly intelligent and also very hard worker. He's like a robot almost.
I'm surprised you don't have a Chet Hanks of your family.
What's that?
Oh, do you know? You know Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
So Tom Hanks has, I think, 3 sons, and 2 of which are just like Tom Hanks. And then there's Chet Hanks, and Chet Hanks is 100% the black sheep of the family. He is a rapper.
Maybe I'm the Chet Hanks. Are you saying like he's a fuck up?
He absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a.
Yeah. I don't even need to see him if he's a fuck up. Okay.
I mean, he's not a. It's just weird. It's weird that this guy comes from Tom Hanks, and the way that Chet Hanks was raised was just like the rest of his family, and yet he came out so different from them.
Yeah. No, that's no. It's pretty incredible that we all lucked out. My parents keep saying that like. Parents do have a large role in how you turn out, but also, like, we've known plenty of families where the parents are great and very hands-on and very loving, and the kids, have mental illness or issues or substance abuse issues or whatever. So, you really do roll the dice. I feel like I won the lottery in terms of my parents and who I was, like, the family I was born into, and my parents say the same thing. They say they feel like they won the lottery with us, and my mom's only regret from our childhood is that there aren't 28 hours in the day, so she could have spent more time with us as kids.
I think that's a healthy way to end.
Yeah, I don't have anything else I really want to talk about.
Okay, I guess we will sit in silence for the rest of this car ride.
Thank fucking God. Zacho, how are you feeling?